Hello everybody, welcome back to the Bison Workshop. I'm Bob, and today we're going to get back on this four-wheeler I'm building for my son. Now, I've done a lot of work to this thing and spent a lot of money on this thing. A lot more than I wanted to. I hope you guys are having your Trump coffee this morning. But I think I'm just about done with Trump coffee. And it's not because I want to, it's because I think I have to. Caffeine is causing me problems. So I think I'm going to have to put tea to rest. I know I have to put tea to rest. It seems like everything that I like to do is getting to the point where I can't do it. So you may see me give up on coffee, period. I don't want to, but I have to. Simply because of those kidney stones. I don't want to go through that again. So I'm slacking off on the coffee. This is the first, well, yesterday was my first cup of coffee for about a month or something like that. It's been a while, long enough. But anyway, I wanted to go over some things that I've done to this. Now remember, we haven't heard this thing run yet. We don't even know if it's going to run. We may find out that this thing, all this is just wasted calls. And the reason I haven't found out if it runs yet is because I just finally got the last part that I needed in order to start it, the oil cooler. So I've got well, I'll go over everything that I've put on here so far and some of the results that I've gotten. And then I'll show you some of the plans that I have come up with. Now, I don't know how well these plans are going to work, but we're going to give it the bison shot. So, without any more talking, I'll bring you down here and show you everything that I've done. Now, you guys forgive my shop. Working on this thing, my shop, it looked like a cyclone hit it. So, after I get done with this, I'm going to have to go through and police my shop and get everything back in organization. So, we'll pan you down here and show you what we got. Alright. So, I went and got a new box, a tail light box, and I didn't know that the one on the trailer was going to fit this one, but it was actually the same box. So I ended up buying one of these for nothing. This one here is not the new one. This is the one that I got off of the other four-wheeler, the Big Bear. And it was missing one of these rubber things. So I really didn't get the other one for nothing, because one of these was missing, so the other one had two of them. So I went ahead and got, this is the one I got in the mail with the other box, and this is the one that was on it. I went and got a new tail light for it, new battery, new solenoid, new CDI box, all new wiring harness from eBay. It was an original OEM wiring harness, because the other one, I didn't get no power nowhere. So I went and got another wiring harness and ended up having the same problem. For some reason, the wire that supplies power to this fuse which I had to replace this fuse thing because the other one was broke that was in the wiring harness I bought. So I ended up putting a new fuse in it, but I wasn't getting no power nowhere. I wasn't getting no power to the red on the switch. I wasn't getting no power to this switch. I wasn't getting no power to the CDI box. I wasn't getting power nowhere. So basically what I had to do was run a hot wire from the full-time power side of the solenoid through the wiring harness, and I didn't tape this part up all the way up to here. I just went ahead and taped it all up from here all the way forward so you can't see the red wire. So I just ran a hot wire to the switch on the red. So now when I turn the switch on, I have lights for this. Alright, so then I got a new carburetor. Now I don't know if this is going to work out or not. We'll find out. This is an aftermarket Chinese carburetor, and history says that they don't normally work out. But I had to use this one. Well, I really didn't have to, but I didn't figure it out later. I still needed to get this carburetor. This one looks just like the original Mikuni carburetor. The only difference is the choke has a cable on the original, and this piece right here that is pressed into this housing on the original carburetor didn't have these threads, and the cable was in bad shape. So it was stretched and way too long. Either it stretched or somebody put the wrong cable on it. But it wasn't threaded like this was. It just had a slide on. Looked like what you would slide a hose on a vacuum or something like that. So it didn't have no threads. So if this carburetor don't work, I'll just press this out of there and hope that it will press into the new one, and then I can run the choke cable like I want to, and because I don't like reaching down here and pulling this choke cable or choke out. So we're going to give this one a shot and see if it works okay. If not, we'll rebuild the original with this carburetor parts and press this out and press it into the new carburetor, and then the other one should be okay. I ran a double ground, run a ground from the battery to the body, and then another one from the body to the frame, and then the CDI box is grounded right here with that ground. Alright, as everybody remembers, the shifter for the high-low and reverse was right up here. Well, I cut that off of there and moved it down here, simply because on the front fender plastic that I have to use, yes, it's got the hole in it, but the handle for the shifter was hitting against this and needed to go further. So it wasn't going to work because the original plastic, this part is level with this part. So it wasn't going to work with this plastic. So what I did was took the housing, this housing right here, off of the other motor that was threaded. It's exactly the same housing that I took off. The only difference is this one was threaded right there and threaded back there to mount this to here. And I'd rather the shifter be here anyway. So I switched this housing and then mounted the high-low reverse shifter off of the Big Bear that's on the trailer on here and ran it around, and everything else was exactly the same. So I ended up putting moving the shifter to here. All right, I changed the oil filter. The original one that I pulled out was squished and bent in half, literally bent in half. I don't know how they done that, but they did. So then I went and replaced both front cables, brake cables, and I replaced this box, well, the guts in this box, because it was exactly the same box as the other one that I got in the mail. But all I had to do was replace the cover, because the original one had a plastic see-through cover. I really don't need to see that, and this is a little bit tougher. So I just replaced these two cables here. I didn't have to replace this cable because it was okay. And I put new brakes on it, new tires, as you can see on the front. I still have a slow leak in that one there, and I think I know why. Originally, it was because it had a break in the valve stem. Well, I replaced the valve stem, and I had to break the bead in order to get to it to put the new valve stem in. And when I seen these wheels here, I realized what I had done on that one wrong. I didn't clean the bead on it good enough, because the bead on this one was really rusty. So we had to do a bunch of wire wheeling and stuff like that to clean that up, and even took a hammer and knocked some of the rust off. That's how bad it was. We're hoping we don't have too many problems with these wheels, but eventually he may want to go ahead and get him some aluminum wheels. But this will work. All right, then I got to get an oil cooler, which I've got, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. And we're going to replace the original cooler with one that I make. The racks, the racks are going to be a different story. I'm going to have to get Bison creative. Literally. I'm going to have to make parts. We're going to take and, well, I'll show you. But before we go any further, I want to show you what I plan to do with the oil cooler. I got it just now. I just went up to the mailbox and got it. Now, the original cooler was busted on this corner over here. And it's got these thread-ons. And I don't know why these have to be hydraulic hoses, because there's not that kind of pressure on that. I think that was overkill. But it was done that way, and it's not really that big a deal. But it mounted right here in the place, because it had a stud that went up in here, and then the bottom had two ears that threaded it on here. So I went online to see if I could find that oil cooler, and Lord have mercy, they are proud of that thing. And I'm talking used. They are definitely proud of that oil cooler. So it was over $100 for that oil cooler, and I wasn't going to pay no $100 for it. Not when I can do it for $30, maybe even less. So I went and got this. This is the exact same radiator that I used. Well, not the one, but the exact style. And I like this setup. This is a radiator or a heater core out of a 90s or 2000s. I can't remember, but I'll put a link to this in the description. Heater core out of a Nissan Altima, Maxima. It fits 2 or 3 different ones. It's all aluminum. It ain't going to rust like the original ones did. and your inlet and outlets mount like this right here. Now my other one came with, and somebody welded that one on crooked. You see that? Look how crooked that bottom one is. It needs to twist this way a little bit. But anyway, this is what we're going to use as a cooler. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make me an aluminum bracket that is a U shape. And then we're going to put a stud in it that will go up inside here. And then it'll fit down on top of here. And it'll have rubber inside of it. And that will go in. I'll slide this in right here like that. And then I'll have to make a bracket that comes down here and has a U-shaped cradle, so that when now we're going to have to get creative with this, because I'm not going to be able to thread the bolt in to this, so we're going to have to make the cradle so that it goes down, around, and up in between this one and this one. And then once we have the mounts made, then we can start working on our inlets and outlets. And the plan that I have is I've got a crap load of 1/4 inch thick aluminum round pieces that a friend of mine in Winston-Salem gave me before I left Winston-Salem. And I'm just going to make 2 squares the same size as these squares. And I'm going to drill them, and we're going to make a gasket for it. Then we're going to drill the center of my blocks out, and we're going to thread them for 14mm by 1.0 threads, which is the same as our bison or the air rifle barrels. So, and that just happens to be the tap that I decided to use. And then once I've threaded that 14mm by 1.0 threads, then I'll take and make my own thread-in barb fittings, hose fittings. So I've got one of these hoses on the Big Bear out on the trailer, the other one's missing. So I can use that one out there to take the rubber hose off and cut it, so that once I make my barb fittings that threads in, we're going to try to make this with a O-ring. Now, I don't know if that's going to work or not. We're going to try. But if not, then we'll just make it so it has a flat spot at the end of the threads. And we'll just use our TV gasket maker or something like that or thread tape, and thread it in here. And then we'll cut these ends off right here, or right here, somewhere around here, and we'll use the hose that I take off of the Big Bear that's on the trailer, because we're basically using that one for parts for this one. And then we'll cut them to size and put a hose here with 2 clamps and have them come up into here, into my new barb fittings. So that is the plan. Alright, now let's get to the plastic, what I have planned. You're gonna like this. Alright, you guys ready for this? Alright, this is the plastic that we're going to use. This is off of the Big Bear that's on the trailer. Well, these mud flaps are in pretty rough shape. They're busted, melted, holes put in them, everything. So we're probably not going to use these. We're going to use tread aluminum. We're going to make a set of tread aluminums that's the same shape as these. Alright. Now, this will fit up on here. And these holes line up right here. Alright. So anyway, somebody's outside. So we got a busted area right here. This whole thing is busted. So we need to figure out a way to make this look good and not be as busted, and strengthen it. I can't find the original plastic, so we're going to have to use this. Well, there's really no feasible way to make this strong, because there's nothing here to mount this to, because the originals have brackets that comes down on both sides, and then there's a brush guard that goes around the headlights. So I come up with an idea, and it just came to me last night. I come out here and was thinking of, I just couldn't think of what to do, so I got to looking over underneath the bandsaw, and I seen something I've been carrying around for the last 2 years, and that I had taken off of another four-wheeler. So, you ready for this, guys? So let's set this aside. Now this is a Polaris bumper. And it just so happens, these two holes right here that were originally in this lines up with these two holes right here. It was almost as if this thing was meant to go on this bike. So we got brackets right here that we can use for support, to support from this hole down here on each side of this tube and mount to the bottom of that. So we're going to go ahead and set us a bolt down in there, and I'm going to just give you an idea of what I'm going to do. So bear with me here, guys. Alright, so now this is just temporary studs. Now there's going to be studs on it because we're going to have some kind of a stud going up through here to mount the rack to. So we're going to make this work to mount the plastic and this and the rack. So these studs are going to do 3 jobs. Alright, so then I gotta get 2 more washers. So now we'll go ahead and mount this. See there? Told you they fit. And then I've already mocked this up, so I know what I'm doing. And that's going to sit there just like that. And I've already checked my clearances. These wheels are not going to go anywhere near that bumper. So that's going to work. Even if I take the wheels and turn them around backwards so they stick out further, which I may have to do because I don't like the way those stick inward. This thing will probably get squirrely on me, and my son's going to be riding this, so I don't want to make a dangerous bike for him. So now we'll just tighten this up. Now remember, I'm going to have to take this back off, but probably going to have to put a bigger spacer in it. Either that or, yeah, probably put a bigger spacer in it. Alright, so now we'll set our plastic on, and the plastic will line right up with those two studs that will be on there. And this is, if you notice, pull you over here, I think this is going to work really nice too. It's almost as if this was meant to happen. As you notice here, this here is right on the inside of this right here. So I may be able to get away with just taking and cutting this out just far enough to allow this fender to be level. Now, in order to get my height where I need it to be, I have to have the tank and the tank cover on, so that when I mount the tank cover to this, it'll be level with the tank, so it don't stick up in the back or whatever. And I'll show you why here in a little bit. But I'm going to cut this out straight across to allow that to come down in there. And this here will be high enough that I went and got a set of 6-inch LED ATV lights, and we're going to mount one here and one here, which the holes are already there, and they will fit perfect in between this right here and the bumper. Then we're going to have this area to close in. That's going to be done with tread aluminum. So there'll be a piece of tread aluminum go across the front of this, whatever's left over after we cut this out. And this here, these fenders should rest right down next to this right here. Now once I'm done, I can take and put a plate on this to cover Polaris, and then 3D print Yamaha and put Yamaha on it. Probably won't use tread aluminum, because if I use stick-on letters, I'll have to have a flat surface, so we'll probably use a flat aluminum to cover Polaris. There's already holes here, excuse me, there's already holes here to allow air to get into the oil cooler. And I think this is going to work. I'm actually excited about this. And it closes in the front of this to make it look a little bit better. So that's what our plan is. Now, I don't need to use the original speedometer on this, simply because we're going to go digital on this. We're going to try like hell to go digital. And let's talk a little bit about the speedometer. The speedometer is going to be a little tricky on this bike, because the disc brakes on this bike are in the rear. And disc brakes is the better brake to put a magnet on and your sensor. So what we plan to do, because this is enclosed, this disc brake's not going to really help us any. So what I'm thinking about doing is taking this nut right here off, the lock nut, and making a round plate that will be about 6 inches, about a 6-inch plate. And we're going to sandwich it in between this lock nut. We're going to try. Then I can come down here and make a bracket that will mount to this skid plate, or make some kind of a bracket that mounts to one of these holes that comes over to hold the sensor that the magnet passes. So, but we want to try to make it in an area where it ain't going to be in the way of nothing else. So we're going to have to get creative with this. We don't want to cover the fill port for the rear end, so we're going to have to do it up in here somewhere. Maybe even go around to the front here and use the rest of these threads here to mount a bracket that comes over and holds the sensor that will be in the plate that I make, the 6-inch plate. So we're going to make a disc for this, hopefully, and mount the sensor for the speedometer on the back of this one, because the front one has drum brakes and there's really no place to mount any kind of a sensor. I mean, there's just no place to put a sensor. So let me get my flashlight and I'll show you what I mean. Now this is going to be a long video because I'm going to try to get the oil cooler part in this. Now I got some more painting to do, but anyway, there's just no place to put a sensor. So the front is out of the question. So we're going to have to do the sensor on the rear wheel or rear axle. So let's go ahead and start making our parts for the oil cooler, and I'll get my stuff together here and get my plates. I've got a bunch of plates underneath the bench here in a box, so we're going to go and look for some plates and we'll be back. Alright guys, I got all my parts made for the cooler, and I don't know how I got them crooked. How the hell I measured that wrong? It's supposed to be 6 inches. It was 12 inches long. I cut it in half, but apparently I'm a little off. Anyway, so I went and drilled these out and tapped them for 1032 because the screws that I only had 4 that fit these, and I needed 8. So I just went ahead and drilled them and tapped them for 1032 because I've got plenty of those. That's what I use for my air rifle stuff. So I made these plates to go on here on both of them, and then I threaded the inner part and made these adapters that screws in just like so, and then I put barbs on it. So now I can just I made them so they're tight because I want them to fit real good and tight, and we'll go ahead and put this together. Let me get my stuff. Now I used this stuff the other day, and I bet it's already hard. Yep, it ain't. Alright, so we're just going to take and put a little bit of this. And just a thin coat's all we need of RTV gasket maker. Now this here is the difference between $129 to $29. I wasn't paying that price for that. So now we'll go ahead and put these on. And it bothers me that this one's crooked. I think quality control where they make these is lacking. Or slacking. Well, what in the hell's it going on here? There it is. That one acting like it wants to go in crooked. Alright, we got that one on. Now we'll put our other one on. Alright, so now we've got that. Now we'll wipe all the excess off. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and screw these in. And I use that RTV gasket maker for everything. I even use it for glue. I need to get a nasty rag for this. Alright, so now we'll screw that in. And the same thing with this one. Alright, now I'll get me a pair of pliers. And we'll tighten those down. And they don't have to be tight because the RTV gasket maker is going to do its job. Now one of them I put a flat on it, but then I realized that it wasn't necessary, so I didn't put it on the second one. Alright, now again, we'll wipe the excess off, just so it looks a little better. So now we have an oil cooler for the Big Bear. So then we'll just put our hose on here. Put the other one on. We'll put some clamps on it. And we will cut the line. Now I still got to make the bracket for it. I'm not going to do that on video. I just wanted to show you how to turn a heater core into a oil cooler. And it can still be used for a heater core or a radiator, whatever. You can use this for a radiator for a water-cooled system too. So that's my build on a oil cooler for the Yamaha Big Bear. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll stop the video right now. And my camera's not cooperating. Bad camera. So don't forget to have your Trump coffee. And even if I have to stop drinking Trump coffee, you still got to drink Trump coffee. Unless you got the same problem I got. That was a nightmare, man. I don't want to ever have another kidney stone. And I really shouldn't be drinking this one, but I'd rather wing myself off of it than stop cold turkey. So, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe.